So here's some price for Tuesday, July 7th, 2026. We're a presentation of Bet365. Boring games, a thing of the past. Now, there's always a reason to tune in, even if the score isn't one of them. Download the app today. Must be 19 plus. Please play responsibly. Matt Sakaris back alongside Blake Price. Four-time Juno Award winner, two-time provincial basketball champion, world log rolling champion Mike Rogerson hitting switches and conducting things. My thanks to Jeff Pettersson for sitting in the last couple of days here as we made my way to Seattle. More on that later in the program.
Normally I'd say welcome back, but it doesn't feel like that kind of a day.
Let's get to our top story today, brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, and Foolish Winery. It is the talk of the town. Rogers Communications, Inc., shuttering of Sportsnet 6:50 a.m., the city's only traditional sports talk radio station, Canucks rights holders, which had been in operation since 2017. First off, Blake and I are absolutely gutted for our friends and former colleagues over there, many of whom have now been through this for a second time after the closing of our old radio station, Bell Media's TSN 1040 a.m., in February 2021. I suspect many of them are out of work now, and that is most sad. It is another dark day for the sports media industry in Canada outside of Toronto. Mike Halford, Jason Bruff, Andy Cole, Thomas Drance, Satyar Shah, Lena Satagian, and that one really hurts because Lena was doing such a great job.
Really
found her voice
yeah.
and her career was taken. Joey Kenward, Canberra behind the scenes. We worked with all of them at the old station. Our regrets, regards, and best wishes, not just to them, but to the entirety of the radio staffs, plural.
Yeah,
unfortunately, it is plural.
Yeah.
On this difficult day, and of course, it is beyond our market as well. Were you at News 1130 at one point?
I was, yeah. They gave me my first break. I interned there with BCIT. I did overnights, traffic and weather on the ones. Overnights, not a lot of traffic happening at 3 a.m. Yeah. My dad would call in, Blake, it's really starting to back up here. Like, what, 2 cars, Dad? It's 1:30 a.m. Overnight anchored there, then got into sports, and that was the pipeline, right? It was an absolute fertile ground for young broadcasters because News 1130 had to have such a huge staff,
right,
to cover everything.
And
it's gone too.
Back in the days when radio stations had really big staffs.
Yeah.
And that is actually the sports talk radio station was one of the last vestiges of that because you needed staff to make it happen. More on that in a moment. The biggest hanging chat here, unless you've seen something, what becomes of the Canucks radio rights? I suspect they'll head to the other Rogers-owned station in the market, the FM, Jack FM, if I'm not mistaken.
My understanding is the radio rights will still absolutely be a thing. They will not just simulcast, which is what my initial instinct was going to be. So that's good news for Randeep and Brendan, I think. Again, it's not 1,000% confirmed, but I believe that is to be the case. So there will still be a separate radio broadcast, which surprised me.
Right.
But congrats to those two guys at the very least.
Yeah. I mean, Rogers and the Canucks extended their regional rights deal, both television and radio.
They could have simulcasted that, though.
Four years ago, they extended that deal. It was a 10-year deal. It runs through the 32-33 season. And look, there are some teams, some markets that have taken their radio rights digital, basically, that you can get them on an app or you can get them on a website, but not over the air radio. And it's radio rights that are a big part of today's story and have contributed to the shuttering of sports talk stations in Vancouver, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Calgary as well today lost their sports talk radio station, and Hamilton over the last 5 years. Simply put, far fewer people listen to games on radio anymore. Every game is televised, and we live in a visual screen culture. So the radio rights, which always underpin the sports talk business, are no longer the commercial entity that they once were. It's hard to make money off them when the only people listening are people who can't get to a screen. Pretty much only people stuck in their cars, and even then, maybe only the driver with the passengers watching it on their phone, right?
They would rather watch it. Yes, exactly.
I mean, in the old days of radio, you'd buy the broadcast rights from your local sports team. The sports team was quite happy because those were usually pretty big fees, but you'd be able to sell so much advertising off of those rights because radio was a bigger part of our lives. Because if you go far back enough, not all games were televised. And so it was a win-win business deal for both the team and for the radio station. That's not the case anymore. I mean, that's the reason why TSN 1040 didn't renew its deal with the Canucks on radio rights back in 2017. You know, the Bell Media folks went to the Canucks and said, I'm sorry, but you're just not worth on radio what you used to be because of the proliferation of screens and every game being televised. And the Canucks said, okay, well, we'll see who else is out there.
It was a point of pride to be the host of Canucks hockey, but
yes, you were.
But I meant the station as host, but yes, I did that too.
Yes.
But it was tougher to make a buck doing it. It was you couldn't sell the spots for the lucrative dollars that you used to
That's
recoup
right.
the funds, so it became a loss leader.
That's right.
You do it just to say you were the home of the Canucks, but
Right.
you didn't make money off of it.
And eventually it became, especially when you had corporate overlords in Toronto who maybe didn't care as much.
Yep.
With the
and as a
quote-unquote
robot-
prestige of being, we're the home of the Canucks. Like, you're talking to suits in Toronto. Do they care?
And it's funny, Canada was a little late to realize that. I'll remember one of our mentors, Rob Gray, who used to say to us, guys, every big radio, not every big, but most of the big radio stations in the United States, sports radio stations, do not have the rights.
Yeah.
They just talk the sport.
Right.
They don't broadcast the sport.
Because it was your biggest line item, right?
Yeah.
It was your biggest cost, your biggest expense. But to that end, talk radio in itself is very expensive to produce if you're doing it locally.
It's humans.
You can buy canned programming and throw it on your airwaves as a simulcaster. But if you're producing local talk radio, whether that's sports or news, you need, at minimum, 2 people in the booth throughout your broadcast day. Some shows Rogers were running on 650 had 4 people. They had a technical and a content producer. I was very surprised about that. I knew Scott Moore, the former head of Rogers Media, liked that model, but I was really surprised that they stuck with that as long as they did when both at our station, your producer was your content and your technical producer. So you're running 2 to 4 people in the booth every single minute of your broadcast day. And then, of course, you've got all the support staff and the infrastructure that you got to build around that, plus all the technical costs. Radio is becoming a very expensive game to do with the returns. I mean, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze.
Nope.
For many. And that's also because of consumer habits. And we've seen it here in our digital world. Young people don't listen to radio like their parents, like their grandparents. Terrestrial radio has an existential problem. And it's even more pronounced than what the TV operators face with cord cutting. The AM dial. It's just about the worst sound you encounter in your day today, right?
Yeah.
I know some of them have moved over digitally and have FM.
HDFM.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I can remember talking to a sound engineer friend of mine, and sorry, it wasn't Mike. We hadn't had the pleasure yet. When we were making the move from AM over to where we are now, digitally, podcast, YouTube, and talking to him about audio quality. And he cut me off and he said, Matt, you were on AM radio. Virtually wherever you go or whatever equipment you use, you will sound better than what you previously sounded like. And especially downtown Vancouver with some of the screeching you get.
Oh, yeah, yeah. The dead spots.
Yeah. Frequency didn't extend as far into the valley. You'd lose it. So, and when news breaks, here's the thing. Young people head to social media and digital content producers, not the local radio station.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're accustomed to. That is their culture.
So
you even lost that. One of the things the radio did best, one of the things that Blake and I used to love was when news broke in the middle of the show and it's raw and it's real and that phone board looks like a Christmas tree and your inbox is just cascading emails.
So fun. I'm getting
I'm
the
getting
rush
goosebumps now
yeah.
thinking of it, of some of the
So
days
fun.
we were on air when we were presented.
And Matt, I think in
news.
that moment is still doable. But it's all
just not at the same intensity it was.
But it's also just you can't pay all the expenses all year long for those
rare
moments.
Yep, that's it.
But it is too bad that you can't replicate that. Like on the days where you really need it,
yep.
that we can't, at least out of this studio, give you 12 hours of consecutive programming.
Mm-hmm.
We do our best, draft days, that sort of thing, but
yeah.
we can't quite get to 12.
Well, the fact of the matter is, and I tell this to every young person who's going into the business, the fact of the matter is news does not happen on your schedule.
No.
It doesn't happen at your preferred times. So if you want to be a breaking news reporter, understand that's nights, that's weekends, that's stats, that's at the drop of a dime.
That being said, Matt, and for you that are watching and listening right now, when breaking news happens, when Quinn Hughes is traded in the evening of I was on vacation.
Friday evening, I was at a Christmas party. I was 2 to 3 beers deep. Good thing I wasn't 3 to 4 beers
We'll
deep.
be here.
Yeah.
We will be here for you.
Yeah. I mean,
we will serve you as we always have.
As best we can.
Yeah.
As best we can. We've from the Northlands parking lot once upon a time, right? With the buyout of Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I got my Northlands shirt on today.
And none of that is
we had to take over poor Gary's office. One of us in the office, one of us in the parking lot before we teed off.
And that's not to toot our own horn here where we are and what we're doing. No. It's more just to say it was a lot more fun to be a part of something huge.
Yeah.
You know, it really was.
To have a bigger team.
Yeah.
And more teammates. And, of course, much like the 1040 shuttering, 2 days after the Super Bowl, big CTV property, wanted to promote it that entire week, and then
well, and this is not a
and then
coincidence either.
Recap it on the Monday before letting everybody go on the Tuesday.
Draft and free agency wanted some promo too here in this case.
Well,
right?
and of course, this also comes one day after Rogers closes its sale of Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment and cuts Larry Tannenbaum that gigantic check. Not to mention the fact the company is entering a new NHL national rights deal, which is even more expensive than the previous deal, which Rogers lost its shirt on. Although there's more and more talk they're going to sell off a couple of the national nights to finance everything. And, of course, you're into the dead of summer here, right?
There is sports radio left in Canada.
Right.
I'm going to give you one guess as to where it is.
So there's still a station in Edmonton because Jason Greger
private
set up a station in Edmonton. And to be fair, there are still news talks, Chad in Edmonton, CJOB in Winnipeg, that have sports as a big part of their programming. CJOB is Jets and Bombers rights holders. Chad is Oilers and Elks.
What's the ownership of Chad and CJOB, do you know?
I knew this at one point.
But are they one of the local conglomerates? They're not one of the telecoms, are they?
I think one of them is Chorus, but
yeah.
E's and O's for tomorrow.
Yeah.
There's 2 sports talks in Toronto, a TSN and a Rogers Own fan. There's still TSN 1200 in Ottawa. They are the Senators' rights holders. There's still the English language TSN station in Montreal as well. And I believe there's a French station as well because
Yes, there is.
Quebecois.
Yeah.
Quebec has its own.
I'm surprised there's
I
not
would
more
call
than
it
one.
a cottage industry, but it's a behemoth of
Yeah.
locally produced media. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a whole star-making system there across television, radio, magazines. It's crazy.
And remember, it's lucrative because they have to preserve the language and all that sort of stuff.
There's just, it's a very working model for a minority population across Canada, but of course majority population in the province of Quebec, who have an insatiable appetite for content produced by and for Quebecois. And honestly, that's sort of the model and what we were talking about when we moved over here digitally 5 years ago was by and for the community. Like we live here. We're British Columbians. Our life is here. We want to talk about the sports that are going on in BC. That's why we talk Canucks and Whitecaps and Lions and Canadians and go down the list. Mike, we got a super chat you want to get to?
T-Dub, let's start with T-Dubs first. You're here for us. This is for you. A $70
Oh, my goodness.
super chat. T-Dub, thank you.
Half proceeds to the BC Mental Health Foundation.
Yeah, Basketball Phil adding in another one as well. Once again, we find out how Toronto really feels about us, but keep cheering for the Jays. Fucking BS. Long-time listener. Phil, we always appreciate your contributions as well. So
Yeah. Okay, so let's give Rogers its say here. Rob Williams, the Daily Hive, reached out to them. They got back saying declining audience and revenue trends. And then a statement came out from Rogers. After a thorough review of our radio stations across the country, we have made the difficult but necessary decision to close Sportsnet 650 and News 1130 in Vancouver, reads we are grateful to our listeners and to our team for their contributions to the local community. The news came, or at least the first place I saw it. Actually, I got a phone call from someone who said 650 has been shuttered this morning. And I went, I was just listening to Mike Halford and Laddie talk about Alphonso Davies in the Canada match on Saturday. I'm like, that sounded live. Was later informed, no, that was yesterday's show that they repurposed and just put back on the air. And it's kind of a cruel cut for Mike and Greg. It's particularly cruel cut that Mike twice has
been working that day. Yes.
Well, I don't know if Mike went in today, but we've told the story before. But Jonas Siegel, the Canadian sports media podcaster, blogger, columnist with the Toronto Star, on the morning that 1040 went down, said he texted me and he said, "Give me a call at your soonest availability." And I said, "Okay." And he called and he said, "Matt, I'm sorry to tell you, but they're closing your radio station today." And he said, "You're going to get an email calling you to a meeting at 9:30, and they're going to break the news to you." And I put down the phone, and the next thing I saw was a text from Jason Bruff to you and me. It said, "It's the weirdest thing. Ian McCletchie can't get the show back on the air.
He can't work the board."
And I'm sitting there going like, well, Ian McCletchie is pretty proficient on the board.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, guys, I think they're closing us down. And same thing this morning is I got a call from someone saying, I think they shuttered 650. And I immediately called Jonah, and he said, yeah, I've just put out a tweet. I was going to call you last night. Whoa. So it's a very difficult day. We have a lot of friends, a lot of former colleagues over there at Rogers at 650 and at News 1130, and we want to send them.
And many will rise from the ashes here.
Yeah.
They will. They will. But having been there, in that moment, you don't know for sure, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just a really empty feeling.
It's a really scary
moment.
Our poll question today. Are you a radio listener? You can vote yes. You can vote no. You can vote not after today. Do so at the Sekerson Price X and YouTube channels. And look, I have long been a radio listener. I absolutely love the medium. I grew up listening to pretty much as much talk radio as I could. I've just felt it super engaging. It was locally produced. It covered our community and branched out and did the world. I'm generally interested in politics, current events, sports. And so it hit just about every note for me. I would listen to news talk programming in the morning on my way to school or on my way to work. I would listen to sports talk radio at night, live broadcasts of hockey and baseball games. And still to this day, I have presets in my car. I mostly listened to 650 when I was driving around town, but, occasionally dip over to NW, News 1130, the FMs as well from time to time, where we've got great friends, of course, who are still at Move and Virgin Radio. So my answer is yes, but it's going to be a whole lot less than what I used to listen to.
I'm out, and not because of any particular moral action here. I listened.
They've just taken away the one thing you listen to.
Yeah, I get my news, and I consume a lot of news, but I read it. I don't necessarily listen to it. And the one thing I would do is listen to Halford and Brough on my way into work.
Yeah, ditto.
And periodically the post-game show, if there was something remarkable in the Canucks game, but it's been a while since one of those things has happened.
Yeah.
And so now I'm a big audiophile, as you are too. I'd listen to a lot of music in the car, and it's from my own fingertips. So I can't imagine the occasion.
I will say this, though, Blake. I have found myself listening to more, especially since the pandemic. I have found myself listening to far more podcasts in the car than ever before.
On road trips, we will listen to podcasts, yeah.
Like occasionally I'm making a drive to Penticton or Kelowna on my own.
Well, there's a lot of dark zones there, too. So if you downloaded music, I guess works.
I am all about podcasts and multiple episodes of some of my favorite podcasts when I'm making those drives.
Yeah. Well, that's the great thing about digital, right? You can, including us, you can download us, and on those dark spots on the Coca-Cola, guess what? You're still listening to what you want to listen to. So.
Yeah. Two more super chats if you want to get in there.
This one is from Puck Guy. A thorough review or use the money to buy rest of MLSE. We covered that, Puck Guy. Yeah, you're right. Thank you for your contributions. Much appreciated. And Young Geezy. Appreciate you guys for keeping it real with the critique of the Canucks and all the local teams. We don't want Canucks state-controlled Kool-Aid. That's going to be interesting.
And I got to say, I'm glad Young Geezy brings this up.
I said Geezy. You're right. It's probably Geezy.
Yeah. Hey.
Or Geezer, Young Geezer. I don't know.
Yeah. I was actually quite impressed at the level of discourse on 650, knowing the sensitivities that go all the way to the top of Canuck Sports Entertainment. I would listen to Halford and Brough or Grants, Sat, and listen to the commentary about the team. And needless to say, since 650 has been on the air, there have not been a lot of heydays for the Vancouver Canucks. There have been more days where they have been, the punching bag and the embarrassment of the National Hockey League and of the community than they have been worthy of praise. I was quite impressed over the years that for the most part, they played it pretty straight. There was due criticism when it was deserved, and there was a lot of times when criticism was deserved. I can only imagine how many times the phone rang in Canberra's office with somebody cranky from Canuck Sports Entertainment protesting this or protesting that. To their infinite credit, Mike, Jason, and the rest of them kept on.
Yep. Yeah, I guarantee
Weren't
there
chilled.
was pushback. Guarantee there was pushback.
Oh, of course, there was pushback back in the back, but that was the other thing.
And it didn't go the other way though, too. They also wanted Canucks on their air more, and they were refused. So once again, it only goes one direction from Rogers Arena, to which I do think there is a possibility. I've got no evidence of it yet. But I do think the Canucks will try to up their content a little bit. But again,
they have to, because they've just lost a massive promotional vehicle.
Right.
And that was the one thing that when, certain Canucks people would call over to the program director of the radio station upset about something they heard on the morning, that throwaway line from time to time. The program directors, certainly the ones we worked with, and they were fantastic, Rob Gray, Mike Whittingham, and Trevor Martins, because I never once felt chilled. I don't know about you, but 10 years at 1040, I never once felt chilled.
No.
That's what a good program director / editor
deflects. Yeah,
you put your people in the bomb shelter and you give them editorial license and freedom. But the one thing they would always say was, guys, we do 12 to 16 hours a day of local programming, most of it about your team. It's like a 12 to 16 hour infomercial for you from Monday to Friday. If you want to lance the big stuff with me, like something that was factually correct and damages somebody or the business, like something that could be slander or libel, hey, I am 100% here to have that conversation. If we make
but
a
I don't
mistake,
think that's trade's a good one.
But if you're just pincushion sensitive about a criticism, and like Gillis, I've since talked to Mike about this because, as everybody knows, Mike was none too pleased with us for a couple of years there.
Me more than you, but yes.
Right. But I was like, Mike, you can't fight all of these fights. Like, you have much bigger concerns than what a guest or what a host said at 10:17 in the morning on the local sports talk. It's there, and especially back in those days, because podcasting wasn't really a thing. You didn't take the show and put it all online as a podcast. It's there. It's gone.
So you can imagine if
you're sucking on it way longer than anybody else is.
Given the thickness of the skin right now out of Rogers Arena, if they do add content, folks, you'll know exactly what you will be consuming if you choose to consume it. JSAV on YouTube with another super chat. Could this be connected to Major League Baseball in Vancouver and Rogers maybe not getting the broadcast rights if they come about would lose Western Canada, Jays region? I don't think so. That is still such a long shot.
Surprised, yeah.
No one's game planning for that just yet.
No. Media companies don't tend to make decisions like this because of the possibility of a Major League Baseball team years from now that could compete with their existing property. No. Look, the one thing I will say, and I don't want to go too far down this road simply because, it's not like it's not like Blake and I are unbiased in this conversation, but I don't think 650 burrowed into the hearts and minds of British Columbia sports fans like 1040 did. And in part, it's because 1040 came around at a great time. And right out of the gate had some very compelling hosts.
Hosts that you knew and had known for decades.
Through Sports Page and things like that. Also had some very compelling teams and content to discuss. The market was very thirsty for sports talk when 1040 came about. Paul Carson, Tom Manick, and David Stadnick were visionaries and understood what it could be, and sure enough made the case to the right financial backers, and then sat there and watched the station absolutely take off in what was the heyday of sports talk radio. Like, there were years where Pratt and Taylor was the number one show in the market, and you saw that reflected in U.S. markets as well. Like Mike and the Mad Dog were the number one show in New York City.
Yeah.
New York City.
Yeah.
So 1040 got a great head start. The timing was absolutely perfect. It was far more difficult for Rogers in 2017. And I had many people say to me, what is Scott Moore and Rogers doing? This is foolish. Who starts up a radio station in 2017, especially in AM Sports Talk? And, of course, they were second to the markets. 1040 was still around for 4 years yet. And they didn't hire that fleet of hosts that the market knew and had on their televisions and read in their newspaper and all the things.
That's not to get catty. It's just what was. It's just what was.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a very expensive operation to set up. And in part, you looked to save where you could. And so you put younger people, less experienced people, less known people on the air. And so you were always in a chase position. And really, even after 2021, when 1040 went down, okay, now you were the only show in town. But then again, I get back to those audience habits, and especially the younger listeners, like they weren't radio people. So you had all the people who were 1040 loyal said, okay, well, that other one isn't for me. But that you weren't able to build up that young demographic of listener like 1040 was able to 25 years earlier.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, look, media changes, technology changes, and this industry in our country certainly changes, and mostly for the worse.
It gives us a renewed, not that we didn't, but a renewed appreciation for you folk out there. So thank you again for following us here. And if you encounter people that don't know about us, let us know. All of our shows here, Canucks Conversation, Rink-Wide, we'll do our very best to fill the holes for those people that feel like they've lost something here in the last couple of days.
Yeah. Yes.
A reminder, sale beers. Not an easy pivot, but, everybody wants to save money.
Based on what I see on Granville today, there will be some beers sold on this final day of the FIFA World Cup match day in Vancouver.
Chase my tail's not exactly what would they call a sessionable, but you can session it. You'll get somewhere. Tall cans, 4-packs on special for the month of July. Look for it on sale at private and government liquor stores.
Okay, forgive me that I'm a day late on this story, but I got to get this off my chest, and I know that Blake's going to go at me like a spider monkey when I'm done. Alphonso Davies choosing club over country. Okay?
You got that in your mind. It's not necessarily the truth.
I believe that to be true. I tweeted this Saturday. As it became clear Morocco was going to beat Canada by multiple goals. Jesse Marsh, Alphonso Davies had a chance to do something great today, and he totally blew it. I said he because at the time I didn't know who was responsible for this decision not to play our best player ever in our most important match ever for the Canadian men's national team. I got a lot of heat on this tweet. You know, when you have more replies than likes, you've stepped into it, huh? And look, I'm up for the debate. I've taken many unpopular positions in my career. This was one of them. You got to be up for the debate. That's part of what we do. Sometimes you're the piñata. You've got to accept that in this world. And here's where I'm coming from, Blake, because I know he disagrees. Alphonso Davies was medically cleared to play. His MRI came back clean. He played 16 minutes versus South Africa and was a catalyst for our country. Scored a goal, right? Needed a goal against South Africa. On came Davies. He made some things happen. Ultimately, we scored the goal. But here's the big one that seemingly everybody missed on Saturday. Alphonso Davies does not have a meaningful match at Bayern Munich until August 22nd. 49 days, a full 7 weeks from the Canada-Morocco match. That is a hell of a lot of time to recover. Now, morning of, Davies told Canadian head coach Jesse Marsh that he wasn't 100%. Apparently felt a little tweak in the hamstring on Thursday, was getting some of that massage gun treatment on the muscle pre-match. Jesse Marsh, after the match, said, quote, Fonzie wasn't confident in his hamstring, would go on to say, for Alphonso, he's learning to trust his body. As much as we wanted to play and wanted him to play, it just wasn't worth risking it. Now, there is a difference between not being 100% and unable to go. It's the difference between playing through pain or discomfort and playing through injury. What was highly disappointing for me, and I suspect a lot of you out there, is that the chips were down for Canada in the most important match the Canadian men's program has ever played, and Alphonso Davies did not beg in. Because at 1-0 versus Morocco, I would have taken a 65% fit Fonzie or whatever he was to see if he could spark the club like he did against South Africa. I'm looking at Lamine Yamal last night for Spain. Not 100%, out there giving it his best. And I sure hope Jesse Marsh went to him on the bench and asked if he wanted in. Because part of being a great coach is pushing great athletes beyond their limits. Blake, I'm going to bet Marsh was spooked by the presence of Davies' Bayern Munich physio/chaperone. And I suspect Fonzie was too. After all, Bayern just signed a 23-year-old left back to 55 million euros on a 5-year deal. Many in Germany are saying this is his replacement. He's feeling threatened at club level. Fonzie posted after the fact, personally, this tournament was one of the toughest challenges of my career. After suffering a hamstring injury, I wasn't able to perform at the level I know I'm capable of. It hurts knowing I couldn't give my all when my team and country needed it. And able to perform at the level I know I'm capable of. Yeah, okay. But get some of the way there. I couldn't give my all. Give some. So while this was a terrific month for the Canadian Soccer Project, our first World Cup win, our first knockout stage victory, it ended with a huge disappointing thud for me, and I suspect part of the Canadian public, because Fonzie ran afoul of our sporting values. Because rightfully or wrongfully, Canada's a hockey country. We watch sports through the hockey prism. Look no further than the heat basketball players took for not representing Canada internationally when hockey players would give life and limb right to wear the red maple leaf. And one of hockey's primary values is toughness. And that's because it's a Canadian value beyond the rink. This country is about resilience and overcoming hardship and pushing through for the greater good. It's values forged over centuries. My brother and I got to the... First of all, do you want to respond to anything?
I respond to everything.
Okay.
Floor is yours. You keep comparing this sport to other sports. And you can't. Because in basketball, you can go try that hamstring that's bothering you. And if it doesn't feel good, you come back out, somebody else takes your place. No problem. Hockey, same thing. Go take a shift, doesn't work. Coach can't go. Okay, no problem. Got other guys, go. Can't do that in soccer. You have 5 substitutions. You're in a World Cup knockout match. If you devote 2 of 5 to one guy, and we already saw it. He created that goal. After that goal goes in, Alphonso Davies was a huge liability down the right side. Against Morocco, their best player is on his side, a lightning bolt in Hakimi, who would eat Davies up for breakfast if he was at 65%. Couldn't do that. Could not afford to do that. Davies came out at halftime. He went through all the warm-ups of a player ready to go in. He did it. The cameras caught it. We saw it. You don't normally do that. If you don't think you're going in, you don't go through those warm-ups. Davies came out. He went through the whole regimen. Mm-hmm. Then went straight to the bench, got out the Theragun, and went to work. he couldn't get there to a point where he was confident that he wasn't going to be, and get this, Matt, a selfish player and make it about himself. I'm prideful. I want to be the guy. I want to get out there. He said, no, for the better of the team, I shouldn't take up 2 spots of substitutions. We should put out the best team that we know can do the job, not for my own pride. World Cups come around every 4 years. You don't get this chance every year.
It's not about his pride. It's about playing for his country and his teammates.
You don't get the chance to do this a lot.
You will never get a chance to play in a World Cup game.
Right. So it's lunacy to think that he is passing up that opportunity because frivolously.
No,
he's got the money, Matt. He's not making less money, regardless of what happens with Bayern. He's not making less money. He's got that money.
This is a player who's just achieved that level of where they're a little bit precious, where people cater to them, where they don't get good good advice, they get enablers. Blake, the substitution argument is pure fucking folly.
In what sense?
Okay, if I need to use up 2 substitutions to see if my best player can get on the pitch, so be it. Did you see who the 4th and 5th substitutions were? Jaden Nelson got on the pitch, Blake. You're telling me we needed Jaden Nelson on the pitch?
No, the game
We know Jaden. Jonathan Osorio for Nico Segur. You're telling me that the likes of Osorio and Nelson were so important to hold back as that 5th sub, Matt, that we don't want to burn
a game at 3-0. The game was over at that point. The game was over.
Okay,
that's why they went on.
Then do me the math, Blake. We put Davies in. He can't go. You're using your next sub. You got to play to Promise David, right?
Yep.
Absolutely have to play Promise David. Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you feel like you had to play Schaffelberg for Ahmed? That was the next sub up.
Well, Schaffelberg ended up playing for Larea as a left back.
I'm seeing he came on for Ahmed, though. Laren for Olawashehi. Schaffelberg for Ahmed. Promise David for Richie Larea. Then Davies for whomever, and whomever for Davies if he can't go. There's your 5. What's wrong with that?
Because you don't know how the game unfolds from point to point.
Well,
you have no idea.
Here's what you do know. If they get another goal, you're fucking dead. So it's go time at 1-0. It's go time at 1-0.
Okay, but it's not all about offense, too.
Because at that point, the status quo is you lose.
The best part of Morocco is down Davies' side. If Davies comes on, Matt, and he immediately surrenders a goal because he's running at 65% and refuses to engage in tackles like he did in the previous match.
Okay.
Like he created that one goal by distraction. But then everything else from that was terrible. He was not good. So, again, it's not like he's instant offense that he just – but again, back to what this means.
You do such a great job of discerning what a coach says and doesn't say. I'm just very surprised that you didn't hear what Jesse was trying to say over the last month, and that was, we really want this kid to play. But right. this kid's a little spooked.
Matt, 2 things can be true. Like Messi is the most precious. Cristiano Ronaldo,
at
the
that
most
level,
precious.
Blake, it's almost like it's a status symbol for the soccer player at that level.
Right.
But I get to be more precious the higher I move up the ranks.
But Ronaldo's a great example here.
That's why I love Harry.
So Ronaldo inserted himself. That association was so pressured to give him his due. They killed themselves. The obligation they felt to play Ronaldo killed their World Cup. So again, they put the individual above the team. The opposite had happened here. The team was put above the individual. We can't play that guy. He's not himself. That is not the legend, Cristiano Ronaldo. That is a shadow of himself, and we're going to kill ourselves by playing him.
And for me, you put the team first by putting Fonzie in there. We're going to play our best player ever in our biggest match.
Where was Sidney Crosby in the gold medal game?
He was nowhere to be found, and he missed the next month.
Mm-hmm.
And I sure hope Alphonso Davies misses the next month. But hey, let's hope he's good to go for that Super Cup game against Frankfurt on August 22nd.
Matt, there is zero chance
because
he's
that
playing
is
in that
so
game.
fucking important.
Matt, do you want to put $100 on that game right now?
Yes, I do.
There is
Yes,
no chance he starts in that game.
Okay.
No chance.
Is he fit is the question.
Well,
Not
again,
does he start.
well, what's fit?
Is he fit?
What's your definition
Is
of
he
fit?
playable? Do they put him on the pitch?
They do not put him on the pitch. There is no chance they put him on the pitch.
7 weeks away, Blake.
There's no chance they put him
7
on.
weeks.
There's no chance they put him on the pitch. Max, it's already been 11 weeks since he last played, I think now. Like 7 weeks is not a lot of time.
I know I got his goad when he calls me his son's name.
No, it was possessive. That was Matt apostrophe S. Matt's already been. It's already been.
But he gets really angry at me. He calls me by his son's name.
It has happened.
It has happened. Some of you may be new today. That's kind of the dynamic of this. Anyways, good debate. Look, I'm becoming a bigger and bigger soccer fan. This tournament added far more people to the bandwagon. I sure hope it added more young athletes to the grassroots program. I sure hope it's adding more sponsorship and corporate dollars that fuel future World Cup success and continued success for the women's program, which of course has 3 Olympic medals, including a gold. And for the youth programs, I love the fact that Jesse Marsh is going off to coach our U20s and that you're going to have that connectivity through the next cycle.
Jesse Marsh has a way. Jesse Marsh has a way that not every, and I don't love I don't love everything that Jesse does, but I think on whole I'm behind him.
Yeah, but I just think there's a juxtaposition between how this sport is practiced in other countries and what we value here on our shores that is eventually going to have to be reckoned with. It's too bad it wasn't Saturday. It's too bad it wasn't Fonzie. But wouldn't it be great if the special sauce for the Canadian men's national team program going forward, because we're not ever going to be the most technically sound team. We're not ever going to be the most athletic team out there, even though I think we do pretty well.
The Belgians last night were whipping the ball around.
Exactly.
Oh, my God.
The great example. Yeah. I mean, Belgium and just the
Their
technical ability far.
Yes.
You saw snippets of the American athleticism stand out, right? The Tillman kid. Where you just went, well, it's breathtaking stuff, but they didn't quite have the technical ability to finish.
No.
We are never going to be tops in the world in technical ability or athletic ability. We're in a chase position. Wouldn't it be great if our special sauce is that we take that Canadian sporting value of no, we will be the toughest. We will muscle through. We will play through contact. Guys will play with knocks. We won't go flailing and writhing when we do catch a stray foot.
I think that is a
we
reputation.
are going. Okay.
I think it is.
Well,
like Richie Larea, for his part, is usually the guy diving.
Right.
Usually, he didn't. I don't think he took a yellow card in the tournament. Like Richie Larea, when the push came, I was so worried about Richie Larea taking a red in this tournament. Like so worried about.
He got into his face there, the Moroccan kid's face on Saturday.
But in the end, Richie Larea was like, "Okay, I'm bringing my line back.
It was a dirty play.
I'm going to play strong, but not play dirty."
I want to get to this story about Elias Pettersson. Because I know you and Jeff talked about the rumors of Elias Pettersson to Pittsburgh that was out there. Elliot Friedman, I guess, wondered it.
Changing landscape, too, yeah.
Jay Fresh and Josh Yohe, a Penguins beat writer, were discussing this on Twitter yesterday. Mike, do we have the graphic there? Let's bring there you go. And honestly, I haven't seen Jay Fresh have predictive tweets like this so succinctly. I believe that Kyle Dubas really likes Jason Robertson and really wishes he was on the Penguins, but I still believe that the Pens offseason is building up to an Elias Pettersson trade. I also feel like the holdup could be Pettersson's end. He has to waive his no-trade clause. Back at the end of the season, Dubas literally had a line about how Pittsburgh is a great destination for a player in their late 20s with an NTC. It might be a tougher pitch. It might be tougher to pitch the idea to EP40 than Vancouver. And then Josh Yohe, a Penguins beat writer, replied and went ding, ding, ding. That is super interesting. We may be back here this afternoon with an Elias Pettersson to Pittsburgh trade.
So the question...
Breaking news, Blake. It doesn't happen on your time.
When I read that, I was like, okay, is that an allusion, though? And I still think you can read it both ways. To Elias Pettersson not wanting to go to the city of Pittsburgh? Or is that Elias Pettersson saying, I don't want to go where I will be held accountable by one of the top 5 players of all time in Sidney Crosby? Where I will feel
exactly. Suddenly I have to meet that level, Alvin, and talk it. We're talking.
Yeah.
Because
I think, honestly, it could be both. It could be one or the other. I don't know what the answer is there.
Here's the other thing I want to bring up. Canucks fans don't miss much, man. You folks are super smart and super on it, and I love this tweet from a Canucks fan last night. Account here is Abby. Mike, do we have that? There you go. At Hockey2L. Good thought. Dupes has been hoarding second and third round picks. Canucks said they're fine taking future picks. Pittsburgh prospect pool isn't exciting or deep. Is a package of a first protected multiple seconds enough? Take a look at this Penguins draft capital. Mike, you got that visual as well. Look at all this. Penguins, 2027. First and 2 seconds. Penguins, 2028. First and 3 seconds.
3 seconds.
2/3 there, too. 2029. First and 2 seconds. Of course, you don't want to subtract if you're Pittsburgh because you're trying to give Crosby and Malkin their best chance, right? But those picks, when you know you're going to be where the Canucks are now, right?
Yep.
Yeah, because you'll be recouping those picks, when you get to the place where the Canucks got here and you're trading off vets.
I mean, I think Canucks fans are seeing that they still want one of those first rounders.
Yeah, of course you do.
But a second rounder as well, for sure.
Well, yeah. I think you want multiple picks.
Yeah.
Our boy David Pinota, the fourth period in the DFO Insider, is tying the Nashville Predators and the Canucks to Seattle forward Shane Wright, the agent there, Kurt Overhart. Said they're working with the team on a trade. Some are right believers, some are not right believers anymore. I still think you're looking at a NHLer. The question is, are you looking at a second-line center one day? Is he only a third-line center? Does he even get there? I know some people don't even think he's going to be a third-line center, but I think I'm taking that bet. Bigger right shots.
A lot of pedigree.
Yeah. Canucks announced the numbers for the new guys who are joining the team after their activities on July 1st. Got Alexiak wearing number 4, Gallagher wearing number 7, Schenn wearing number 2, Cotter wearing 47. 3 single digits. Be still my heart. Blake, new guys coming into the team getting single digits.
Well, defenseman for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Gallagher going there too.
7.
Yeah.
Love it. And then one other note. We don't quite know the position here. The director of communications for the Charlottetown Islanders in the Q is coming to the Canucks. We'll see what that's about as they continue to build and rebuild.
Leah in the chat says, when are we hearing about Canucks coaching news? It is a little odd. They promised last week staffs would be filled out.
I don't think they're paying industry freight. So I think that's part of the hang-up. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, let's get to today's menu. It's brought to you by our friends at Greta. Fantastic spot to pregame or postgame or middle of the day. If there's a soccer match on, you were mere steps from the arena or the stadium. And if you're planning your next private event, Greta is absolutely your spot. There's a private riser at the back. It's got its own bar back there, so you're full service right there. You're not waiting around. Surrounded by screens, you can watch whatever you want. And, of course, the arcade. Everybody loves the arcade. There's a game for everyone. Delicious menu of street food. To book your event, get more info, go to gretabar.com, Greta 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. Big show. Love it. Stephen Brunt's going to join us, acclaimed author, columnist, broadcaster on the growth here of the North American Soccer Project. Canada in particular. He'll have his say on our Davies debate. Also on the sports media landscape in Canada after today's news. And full disclosure, we recorded this interview with Steve earlier this morning. We were not aware of the closure of the Calgary station at the time. In fact, we were still dealing with, the reports. Is there something, remnants of 650 that are going to remain? Stephen Ellis of the Daily Face-Off prospect writer is going to, recap the 2026 draft for the Canucks, but mostly point forward to the 2027 draft and even up to the 2030 draft, because that's how we roll now. And in an absolutely tremendous story and a really fun interview that put smiles on both my face and Blake's, Blue Jays reliever Adam Macko is going to join us former Vancouver Canadian, Vancouver resident, White Rock resident.
He's a local guy now, and he's
a
actually
local guy now. He's one of us.
And we're at a quarter of his life has now been spent in Vancouver.
Incredible. This kid's journey is just amazing to Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Slovakia, Ireland, Alberta, big leagues.
As one does.
Later in the program, we'll talk some Whitecaps. We'll talk more World Cup. Shout out some of my Blue Jays people who we met down in Seattle this past weekend. And Canada's looking great at the FIBA World Cup qualifiers. That's FIBA, where the B is for basketball. Time now for our Bet365 bets of the day. Mr. Price, did you win? Do you have the honor here, first off the tee?
Don't recall. Yesterday was a blur.
Super boring for me, but how do you pick against France? They're minus 182 to beat Morocco, which I actually think is decent value. I thought they might be minus 200 or something. I don't love picking heavy favorites, but France is undeniable.
I went with Felix, still in progress. Blue Jays and Giants.
Ooh. We betting over under on hits?
Pick your poison. Right now, the Jays are in such bad shape, and I'm glad I'm doing this ahead of Adam Macko. Take the Giants plus 100. Giants.
The worst thing about hockey season is that at some point every year it ends. There's a lot of time between now and the first puck drop of next year, especially if you're accustomed to watching nightly games. The good news, Bet365 still has plenty of games, just none that require lacing up skates. Bet365 Casino, you can choose between hundreds of slots, live tables, your favorite games. Well, maybe your second favorite games. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Stephen Brunt up next. Sick Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center. We go coast to coast here, Blake. We welcome in one of the keenest eyes in Canadian sports, author, columnist from Woody Point, Newfoundland. He's got a place in Woody Point, Newfoundland, and every morning he goes out catching. Not fishing, because fishing would mean some days you're unsuccessful, but Stephen Brunt is always successful. Thank you for joining us after a morning catching. Salmon today, was it?
Yeah, no, Atlantic salmon out here on the fly. It's we're having a decent season, and I released a nice fish this morning, and even when you don't, I'm standing on a river in the middle of Grossmore National Park, in one of the most beautiful places in Canada. Like
Wow.
No bad days there, right?
Yeah,
I defer to my fly fishing king here. I fish off a boat. I feel like I'm the cheap version of you.
You're playing double A here.
Exactly.
You're playing at the Nat. Steve's playing at Run.
That's right.
That's right. Brunt, we wanted to get on today because the North American Soccer Project here, now that all three host nations are finished at the World Cup, and of course, Mexico has already won over. The last frontier commercially for the World's game is the USA and Canada. Both sides got to the knockout round. Both sides won a knockout stage game. Both sides lost by 3 goals in the round of 16, and yet you look at the scenes and the celebration of this sport. In our country, I'm not sure how much you've caught of Vancouver, both Jackpool Plaza down at the Watch Party at TSN, but Granville Street, the Fan Fest out at the PNE, but also on the streets of America, which caught me a little bit by surprise.
Seattle went gaga for
Dallas,
this.
Houston, Seattle. I was there on the weekend, and the way they just absolutely went crazy for this tournament and this event. Give me your update. How is the soccer project doing in North America after this tournament?
Yeah, and I will say I was home in Toronto for the Canada-Bosnia game, so I did get to see a little bit of this firsthand, which was a spectacular experience in a lot of ways, and one that I never thought in my lifetime I'd see a World Cup game in Canada with Canada in a World Cup game in Canada. That seemed impossible when they put in the bid originally. I thought, I remember when people started talking about Canada as a host, I said, they're delusional. Like, we can't qualify for the World Cup. Really, we're going to host it. But, you think of, where things have come. You know what, Matt, I was thinking, I thought a lot about, I covered the 94 World Cup, USA 94, right? That's the first one I covered. And the difference between then and now in the United States is, I'm not sure people have processed quite how much has changed in that. I know that's a long stretch of time, but, in 94, the games were, they were games played in NFL stadiums in front of people from far away who came to watch their team, and in front of Americans who were kind of curious. But it wasn't like, there was there, like when Ireland played Italy in New York, right? That was a scene for sure. But it was all people rooting for Ireland or rooting for Italy. I saw Brazil play Sweden in the Pontiac Silverdome, which was it just felt odd, right? Everything about it felt like something had descended from somewhere else and dropped into the middle of America, but there was no real engagement. And, that World Cup obviously spawned MLS. The American men's national team, even though they sucked last night, they have been to the quarterfinals in the World Cup. And I have been on I've been on the road in other World Cups where there are American Germany and in Japan, Korea, where there are American soccer fans on the road. American soccer culture, it's a specific thing. But it's real. It's not it's not that kind of cargo cult. Let's imitate what they do in England or Italy. It's its own thing. And what you've seen now is look, and it's also decades of people being able to watch the Premier League and being able to watch the Champions League, and being tuned into this sport on a level that we weren't growing up. Most Americans weren't even 20 years ago. It's part of the language. It's the sports radio language. I'm sure I heard some terrible soccer talk on ESPN radio this last week driving through the park in Woody Point.
But they were having it. But they were having it, right?
They were talking about it. Yeah. I had no clue what they're talking about, but they talked about it. Yeah. So it's happened. I guess that's what I would say, is that it's happened. And I don't.
Stephen, I was on CNN last night. I was on CNN last night talking about the World Cup. Like what? Like what?
Was Brunt not available?
Yeah, exactly.
On CNN?
Like,
wow.
They're talking soccer on the U.S. networks. Who'd have thought? And yet, and a lot of it's misguided. There's a lot of neophytes out there, but no, there is some legit conversation out there. And to me, that's where they've reached the next level. They've sort of percolated at the same level. They're on that second tier, trying to bounce into the top tier of actual on the pitch soccer. But I think the discourse and the fandom, that's what we have seen jump to the next level. Fair?
Yeah, and that that what that begets, and continues to, is going to be participation, is going to be money. Corporate money. It's going to be athletes, young athletes choosing, that is their sport. That American team is diverse. It's representative of of the United States in that sense. It's inclusive, like a lot of things in America aren't right now. And like how you can see why, like their program will get better. Then they have, the big population. They have, massive college sports system. There's a lot of things, happening there that would suggest that they'll get better. And they, that this is not the end of something. This is, we're still kind of at the very beginning or in the middle of something.
Yeah. I've long argued you've got millions of kids in the sunnier climes who are breaking their backs trying to play 4 to 6 years in the NFL, or facing the longest odds of them all to try and make it in the NBA, when if they were aware of how great a living one could make in global soccer, might turn to that sport, save their brains a little bit, and get an easier
Freeman's
pathway.
son did figure that out.
An easier pathway to a paycheck as a pro athlete, right? So.
Yeah, it's funny. You do see those, the kids of athletes from other sports playing soccer, right?
Yes.
There's a pattern here, right? And again, if you had a kid who was incredibly athletically gifted, which way would you steer them?
Right.
I think I'd say, hey, here's this sport's pretty good.
Let's bring it closer to home here, Steve, because, of course, the U.S., the biggest economy in the frontier that FIFA and global soccer wants to conquer. But Here on the ground in Canada, what do you think this tournament and this performance by the Canadian national team did for the sport going forward?
I think it did a ton. I tip the cap to the great Vancouver at Victor Montagliani for one of the guys who believed in this thing and is again sitting at the right hand of power these days in FIFA. God love him. I hope maybe he'll be the boss and maybe they throw Infantino out over this last thing and our Vic can run it and then that'd be very good for Canada. But no, I think in some ways we were what I said about America is it's the same thing here, right? That soccer literacy has grown exponentially over the last 25 or 30 years. It used to be very kind of exclusionary, the soccer culture in this country, right? Like if you weren't, if you couldn't say that, your parents grew up outside the San Siro or something, they didn't want to talk to you, right? It was all about the Euro-centric and South American-centric stuff and all about the old country. And, I remember I did a speech at a Canada soccer banquet once where I essentially called them out on that. It wasn't very popular, but said you got to let people in. It's not your little club here of and stop. Not everybody should have an English accent on the broadcast and all that stuff. But we're still getting by that one apparently. But yeah, I think the universality of soccer, the success of the team. Obviously, you got to I 8-1 Honduras. I don't think a lot of people were all pumped up at that moment about the future. But what the women have done, which is a different game and a different depth of field, and they did it in the Olympics, not in the World Cup. But that was kind of the precursor of this. And then obviously Qatar and qualifying legitimately and beating the Americans and beating Mexico and doing all the stuff we did in that qualifying. And now looking at that roster where they play a really pleasing brand of football. There's some stars there. It's not it's not Kitty bar the door. Like they're a positive attacking team under Jesse Marsh. Jesse Marsh himself, although I know he's not to everybody's taste. And kind of hitting all their goals in this World Cup. If they hadn't gotten out of the group, if they didn't get a win, if they didn't win the South Africa game, even maybe we're having it's a little bit different. But again, all arrows are pointing up. But the big one in Canada is money. That's the big one, right? Because Canada Soccer has always had money problems. That's why they did the deal, the Canada Soccer business deal, to try and get money. But number one, there's prize money, direct prize money, millions of dollars that come with reaching around to 16 in the World Cup. But the corporate money is going to pile on now. And I think they're going to get a national training center out of this. I think this is going to be good for the Canadian Premier League.
It's got to be, right?
All of the grassroots.
Stephen, it's got to be for the CPL because there's ownership issues in the CPL right now already. The Whitecaps are in trouble, as we know as well.
CF Montreal as well.
Can those programs all be saved by this corporate money, which theoretically, and I fully agree with you, that it should be coming, given if you are a CEO of whoever and you watch this interest, don't you want to be involved? Theoretically, it should happen, but it's got to happen. We need concrete money here involved.
Yeah. The MLS one's tricky though, right? And again, in your town and in Montreal, both. And that has more to do with the skyrocketing franchise values in the league, which frankly, money in, money out, I don't understand. Mm-hmm. But those teams are worth enormous amounts of money on the open market right now. And, the temptation, especially in BC where you don't have you need a stadium solution there and you need, a bunch of things to happen. The temptation to just say, yeah, buy it from me, I will cash in, take all our money and get out of this thing. Especially now, it's not so much, again, not an issue in BC with the stadium if they stayed there, but going to the winter schedule, going to the world schedule, which they're going to do. Matt, you lived in Montreal. You want to go to a soccer game in Montreal in February, outdoors? And they're talking about the Olympic Stadium, for God's sake. Anyway, that's the definition.
Garber praised the Olympic Stadium, yeah. Steve. He went to Montreal and he held a press conference saying how wowed he was by the Olympic Stadium for a Montreal machine game of the defunct World Football League.
I've called
30
a CF
years
game
I
there.
watched that game.
I've called a CF Montreal game in there. Yeah. It is a decade away from being ready.
Stephen,
there's hot dog wrappers that I left there in 1988, right? They're still sitting there. There's layers of dust this deep. So there's an issue with those, with both MLS teams. The Toronto team, ownership wise, obviously there's no issue. I still think playing in the winter is going to be not great, and we'll see. And there's that franchise has not exactly thrived since back in their championship days. And I hate to say that, if there was less of an MLS presence in Canada, maybe there's more room for the CPL. but that may be true. And MLS is a funny league. And again, I don't want to speak for the way it is in Vancouver, but it's funny. Like it's in Toronto, very much. It's people follow the team. There's a hardcore that follow the team. Very few people follow the league, and that's partially because of the broadcast deal, where you just can't see the games, unless you really want to pay for it. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the future of MLS is. I think this will help the Canadian Premier League on that kind of grassroots, scale that they're trying to exist on. And you're right, they've been walking a very fine line, early in their history. But, like they have had, look, there's been CPL players capped for Canada. There's been a bunch of them, right? Like that's the point, right? They're not all going to be superstars, but there needs to be a pipeline for domestic players, and that's not MLS.
Well, 11 of the players on the Canadian men's national team played in MLS academies, though, right? Like the national team is being populated.
Academies for sure. Yeah.
The academies do not exist outside of the franchise. If the franchises disappear, the academies disappear immediately. So,
well, our academies would disappear. The MLS academies would go on, right?
Well, in Vegas or wherever, yes.
Yeah. But
so the national team
if
is
you're,
that pipeline.
If you're an elite young player, at some point one of these academies comes calling. No, is that not how it works?
I think
they're pretty local.
One thing they're going to get at. Yeah, I would say one thing I think is going to come out of this, again, something concrete. I think they're going to get a national training center, because they've been talking about it, and there's no dough, or there wasn't enough dough, and there wasn't enough corporate support. But a national training center would be extraordinarily important. So I think that, if nothing else, that'll come out of this. But I think, look, that team, the younger part of the team we just saw is going to qualify 4 years from now and are going to be fun to watch. And there's more upside there. And there's going to be kids pushing their way through. And, again, not the depth that the Americans have, but enough. So if we're in the conversation every 4 years, if this happens every 4 years, Canada's in the World Cup. Of course, we're in the World Cup every 4 years.
Yeah, so fun.
Yeah, it'll be a total blast, right?
Steve, I want to run a unpopular opinion I have by you, and I know it's unpopular because I read some of the comments about my Alphonso Davies tweet on Saturday. I do not believe soccer can become all that it can become commercially in this country, if not this continent, at the U.S. as well, unless it gets a little tougher. Unless it gets a little more resilient, unless the players fight through a little bit. International hockey in Europe is different than what we have in the NHL, right? It's been tailored to European taste. Same with international basketball once upon a time. Our sporting values are toughness, fight through, whether it's hockey here, football in the United States. Do you believe that soccer can swim against the current and be everything it can be commercially on this continent without sort of adapting and conforming to the sporting tastes of Canadians and Americans?
I'm going to separate that from the Davies situation. I want to talk about that because I don't think soccer has to be hockey. Like we don't need Bobby Bond winning the Stanley Cup with a broken leg. It's not, it's different, right? It's just different. And there are lots of guys who have played and fought through injury, and sometimes injuries in soccer are not maybe as obvious sometimes as, Bo Levi Mitchell getting carried off with his foot point the wrong way the other night. Like it's different. But if you have a serious hamstring injury, it might not look like much, but you still can't play. But the Fonzie thing, I know, look, if I was Canada Soccer, I would want this to just go away. Right. I don't want to have this discussion in the middle of this kind of euphoric moment after the World Cup and Canada's performance and everybody blissed out about soccer. And Alphonso Davies is on every other TV commercial right now. But, who pulled out Alphonso Davies from that game? Okay. Because but believe me, I've been listening closely. And what I know is that he played in the game before, and he looked pretty good. Actually kind of changed the dynamic on the pitch before that goal against South Africa. I thought, boy, that's, they had to account for him, and that's part of the reason that play opened up for Eustáquio. We know he had an MRI, right before the Morocco game, which was clean, according to Jesse Marsh. And then we know he didn't play. And, in a game where when they were down 1-0, or even at the half when it was 0-0, game was very much in play. Mm-hmm. And Alphonso Davies on the field changes that on the pitch. He's going to change. I'm not saying they would have won, but I definitely want him out there, the best player in Canadian history. So who pulled him? I don't think Jesse Marsh pulled him.
No.
Like, he's kind of saying, we didn't want him to hurt him. But what was the conversation here? Like,
that was my question, Steve. Alphonso said the morning of, again, this is according to Marsh, because Alphonso did one media availability that wasn't wrapped around a corporate sponsorship here, Steve, which was... but he said he wasn't confident in his hamstring, didn't feel 100%. Steve, the other thing here is Bayern's next game of consequence is August 22nd, 49 days and 7 weeks away. He's got longer before his next Bayern match than he had rehabilitation coming off the injury in Champions League to prepare for this World Cup.
Okay.
There was a ton of recovery time for a guy whom we needed 20, 30 minutes from.
Can I go here?
Please.
Yeah.
There are no substitutions in soccer, not unlimited substitutions.
There's 5.
Yeah. So if you use up one of those and 5 minutes in, your hamstring blows, guess what? You have sewered your team. You've now made a double substitution in a knockout game. If Alphonso Davies does that and called himself ready and he costs his team a substitution, guess what? He gets labeled as selfish, and he made the moment about him rather than about the team. He made the call that I can't be me. And Stephen, I agree. He made a great play when he got on. 5 minutes after he made that great play, he was a shell of himself, and he was a detriment down that left side. He would not engage in tackles. He was beaten to every single ball. The play fell off the table. That is not a player that was ready to play by any stretch of the imagination. If he was, he would have played. The World Cup is now maybe the one thing that he can still star in. His job has been taken at Bayern. They've signed one of the biggest offseason signings on the planet. His job is gone. This was his chance to reclaim something. If he had it, he would have shown it.
Okay. Steve?
I think you're being generous. I hope you're right.
I agree.
I think you're being generous.
In which case? Generous in which part?
I think if you could, number one, he shouldn't have been on the roster if he couldn't play.
But there's players that didn't even touch the grass, though. Steve, there was lots of room for a whole bet like this. Lots of room.
But if you don't, if in that moment, if he's not going to play, if he's at 75% or whatever he was, like whatever we think he was, in what would have been was the defining moment of the tournament for Canada, essentially. Again, they had a shot to win a round of 16 game in the World Cup. They may never have one again. And if he could have given, I think this goes back to the injury that he suffered with Canada and the whole thing with Bayern and the, all of the mistrust and distrust.
Part of it for sure. That's part of it for sure.
Yeah. Yep. But I want to know what that conversation was. I think Jesse Marsh has done his best to kind of make it about something other than Fonzie. And again, this may not be fair, but I can tell you that during the Herdman administration, as flawed as it was, but they did get to the World Cup. There was some stuff behind the scenes with Fonzie and his commitment to the Canadian men's national team. There were some issues.
Well, he didn't want to come for every window. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So to me, that's I again, without saying you're a hockey player, you got to go out there. It doesn't matter if you got a broken nose. I don't think that, but I think if he could play, and again, even look, if 10 minutes of him would have been better than not 10 minutes of him,
for sure,
because they didn't win.
Steve, switching gears here, and lastly, because 40 plus years in the business, newspapers, television, radio, digital, books, you've done it all. Word comes today of the reports are that Vancouver has lost its sports talk radio station. Rogers Sportsnet AM 650 meeting. There's not a sports talk radio station here in the third largest market in the country, second largest English-speaking market, and of course, not the only change in the business. Temperature check on the sports media industry in Canada.
Wow, I hate that hearing that news for the people who work there. I was out when they launched, and have been, I know some of the folks there, obviously, and I love radio. I think it's an amazing medium. It's my favorite of all the stuff I've done. I love radio. I love sports radio. I love the kind of the immediacy of it, the pulse of the city kind of stuff when it's good, But yeah, like nostalgia is no refuge anymore, right? Like I can't say, boy, I remember when it was great on radio, man. If something happened, everybody tuned in from their car, and they don't anymore. The pandemic kind of pushed that over the cliff in a lot of ways. That was kind of the last straw, but it was a lot of terrestrial radio was on life support at that point, and I think that kind of the town square aspect of it, which is different than. Like I used to write a newspaper column and, think, well, people pick up the paper in the morning to see what I think, they're like hours after the event. That's not true anymore either, right?
Yeah.
A lot of stuff has changed. But sports radio is a particular space, and the people who are really good at it are real artists. And again, when your team does something good or your team does something bad, you want that place to be with that community. And like half the stuff I've done for a living doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, and we love doing this show, but it is different than radio. Like this show is different than radio,
and the audience is the audience is different too, Steve. I told the story earlier in the show, but when we first started doing this show in the digital space 5 years ago, and I would go around town, I would get recognized from time to time. And it was my partner, Carmen, who first brought it up to me, who said, all these like 18 to 25-year-old kids know you now. She's like, when we used to meet your audience, it used to be guys in their 50s and 60s, like sports talk radio listeners, the Grey Cup crowd, basically. Now, who are these kids who recognize you? Like it's, you could be their father. And I'm like, yeah.
And Matty, I still get the guys, it's funny from the years working with McCowan in Toronto on primetime when it was a great show and he was a great broadcaster. I still get a guy every once in a while. I'll get a guy come up to me like in a bar or at the grocery store or something of a certain age, and I know, like that's where they're coming from, and that's a long time ago now.
Yeah.
Well, so, I have to tell. I've told Matt this story a zillion times. Like I've been on TV for the last 25 years of my life. I almost never get recognized for my face. It's when I am speaking to an employee somewhere, and they're like, "I know that voice." It's radio.
Yeah.
Touches a lot of people, right? Like.
Yeah,
it does.
Thank you for this, my friend. Great to catch up again. We'll let you get back to catching out there in Newfoundland, but I appreciate the time, Steve.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, guys. Cheers.
Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center. We welcome in the Daily Face-Off's prospect writer extraordinaire, Mr. Stephen Ellis. He joined us from the draft in Buffalo. He has since been a very busy boy casting forward to the 2027 NHL draft and the prospect pools upon us after everybody stocked the system. Joins us from his home in suburban Toronto. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. It's the thing about this time of year, it'd be nice to not watch hockey, but this is when all the different organizations decide they need to go and start doing all their showcase events. So got one in Buffalo this weekend, and there's the Canada U17 camp, and then there's the World Junior Summer Showcase, and then it's the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, and teams take a break in August. It's very nice. I can't wait.
I was going to say it's an 11-month business, this hockey world, especially if you're a prospect writer. Before we cast forward to 2027 and talk about the prospect pool series that you're doing, we talked to you at the draft, but sum up the Canucks draft for me, Stephen, writ large, and the 9 players they took. And, what do you think of the work that this new administration did with Director of Scouting, Amateur Scouting, Todd Harvey, back at the draft table in 2026?
So obviously Malhotra is the big piece there. That's the one that's going to get the most talk about it. No question about it. I think when you look at that, we've discussed it a few times, right? Like, was that the right move just from not optics, but like a logistics standpoint almost? Like here, you've got the coach's son. Like this is going to be very difficult to kind of maintain, but they still pick the best center. And I feel like that's still the right thing for them. In terms of everybody else, I like Adam Novotny, very good goal scorer, very solid season in the OHL. Brooks Rogowski, he's massive. He's tough to play against. He's speedy. He's a very perfect bottom 6 player, and that's the type of guy you're probably going to get at that spot in the draft anyways. Nicholas Aram Olsen, I'm kind of surprised they were able to get him. That's a guy that some scouts thought were a first-round talent. I was kind of on the fence there because it feels like maybe he's not consistent enough at 5-on-5, but the raw talent is there. And in terms of like, I always look back at like my favorite performances from a prospect during their draft year, and Aram Olsen was basically the reason why Norway avoided relegation at the under-18s. He had a hat trick, I believe it was in the third period, and that was enough to get Norway to not get relegated. So I think it's something where, solid draft. I gave them an A. I think you're going to be pretty happy if you're a Canucks fan with that. There's still a lot of work to do over the next couple of years as this team gets back into contention, but that's probably why we're talking about the 2027 draft today. So they're focusing on that right away.
Yes. Before we leave 2026, the beef. Do you think it was conscious, or do you think it was just coincidental that they went so beefy and long with the draft class?
You know what? Yeah, it's interesting. They did not pick a single guy that I would want to take on in a fight. So good for them. It's a lot of strength. Brooks Rogowski's not a mean dude, but man, I would not get into a corner with that guy. He's going to just put you through the glass.
No. You mentioned it to us as we were wrapping the draft on Saturday, Stephen, but the 2027 NHL Draft Prospects Rankings was your next project. It is since published on the Daily Faceoff. Blake is getting a little bit, he's amused at just how anxious and excited I am for all of these drafts going forward.
He's turning the page so quickly.
I am turning the page. I am all about next June. Look, there's a generational player here, according to some, in Landon Dupont, the right shot defenseman from Everett. I would like your take on whether he is, in fact, generational, or at least in the conversation with Matthew Schaefer and Bedard and some of these other guys who have gone first overall, but also the quality at the top, sir.
So first off, I also had a 2028 draft ranking, but a top 15 from that, and not as much superstar skill. I think 2027 is a little bit more fun right now.
Hold on a second, Stephen. Can you just catch up, okay? Because some of us are on to 27 and even 28. We need you to get on board with this.
27 is more fun than 28, you think?
I think so. Also, like next weekend, I'll be watching some 29 and 30 draft guys. So it's it never ends, this class. It's the talent early on is so much more prominent than I think we would remember 10 15 years ago. I remember I played in a ball hockey tournament where Connor McDavid was in, and this was a year or so before his draft, and more people were interested in, I think it was one of the Strome brothers. More people wanted his autograph at this, not McDavid. They didn't care about him. This is before he got superstar prospect status. Now it's Gavin McKenna's name. I swear people knew his name when he was 3 years old, basically. It's been a long time that we heard Gavin McKenna's name. And Landon Dupont's kind of in that same way. And when you look at what he's able to do, he's definitely a significantly better player than Schaefer was at the same age. But Schaefer's such an unusual talent, where he was the first player off the board, obviously. Very good draft year despite missing so much time. I don't think anybody on the planet saw him becoming this good this quickly. Everything about it suggested it was going to take him a while to really get up to speed in the NHL. And to watch him do what he did this year was insane. I think Dupont with him, it's, I think he's stronger. I think he's a bit more skilled with the puck. He's just a perfect modern day defenseman in the way that he just kind of controls the pace of play. And you watch him with Everett this year, one of the top teams in the whole WHL. They won the WHL championship. They went to the Memorial Cup, and it just, when he was fully healthy, he was unstoppable. The skating, the speed, the hockey sense, the shot, the ability to control the power play. He's got everything you're looking for in a dominant defenseman who could put up 75, 80 points a year. I hate using the word generational because we almost use that word every year at this point. That being said, this is, I think, just trying to think off the top of my head, definitely significantly better than Owen Power was when he went first overall. I think there's more skill than Schaefer when he went first overall. I also would say it's not a lock to go first overall. There are some scouts that you look at the top three guys there on the screen. There's some scouts that think Privilov's the best player. Some think that Alexei Joseph, this 6'5" power forward who scored at an unbelievable rate this year in the QMJHL, though he could put up an argument there. That being said, when I polled scouts kind of leading into the draft, around the combine, everything, it still seems like Dupont's still the number one favorite. And that's a guy that, if you're going to build a defense around anybody, that's the guy you want to build around.
He feels like he's got a Bedard-like release on his shot. Even the manner in which he unloads, it feels like I'm watching Bedard playing D a little bit, different size. But I would be reticent to believe that Privalov, like, he's just so big.
Yeah.
I like, like, you want skill. When you're picking in the top 3, you want skill. I'm going to be, and until I see a lot of sample size here on this player, I'm going to be doubtful that he can be a high enough skill player for me.
I think, yeah, if you're looking at, like, even Alexei Joseph, I think he's got a bit more skill than Privalov, but, like, that's the thing. Like, you watch him and he does actually, like, have some unbelievable hands. And I think in terms of a guy that his size, you look at Yuri Slavkovsky. Like, one of the big things about him in his draft year was his shot was so good. With Privalov, it's more his skill, the ability to go out there and deke these guys. He's got really quick feet, and we're seeing these big, strong forwards. Like you think back 15, 20 years ago, the big guys were all defenders, right? And they were usually stay-at-home guys. That whole archetype's changing. And the guys that are bigger are the ones that are actually having to play with a bit more speed and skill to be more valuable. And like the one example of that is Dean Letourneau, Boston Bruins prospect. Doubt, Vancouver fans have probably watched a lot of him. This is a guy that in his first year in college had 0 goals, 3 assists. It was like, oh man, this looks like a terrible pick. And then this past year, he was one of the best guys in college. And it's because he really figured out how to use that size and speed to his advantage. And then he added kind of that skilled element that, like, I love bringing him up because the day I proposed to my wife, I almost missed my opportunity to do it the way I wanted because I was too excited watching Dean Letourneau play his prep school hockey game.
Stephen, I think
you're a sick man, Stephen.
You've reached. There's a 12-step program for this.
Honestly, we've loved having you on the show, but clearly there's some counseling required here. If you have to go away to Switzerland or something like that, you just let us know. Mum's the word. And I love this guy from deriding me about pointing forward on the 2027 draft, but Privalov isn't skilled enough for him.
No.
He's got takes too there.
I said I want to be presented with this skill because I look at his tail of the tape and it's just too damn big.
So then let me just ask, would you call Privalov a quintessential power forward? Does he play inside? Is he the bull in a china shop like the Slavkovsky, like the other guys of that profile? Or are we just talking about a really big guy who's quite skilled and hasn't yet used all that size and brute strength?
I'm going to go with number 2 there. I feel like that's something where, like, he might be one of the more skilled big forwards I've ever seen. You look at guys like Ethan Belchitz, very similar physical build to him, and Belchitz was more about this power shot. He could deke guys, but that's not necessarily his game, and he's not a great skater. When you look at Privalov, he is a good skater. He has these quick hands. You see him pull off these great moves. But yeah, I still think that's something where a player like that is still trying to figure out how to use his size because, when you're 17, 16 years old, like, those guys only have a couple years of body contact hockey under their belts. So trying to figure out how to use their size at a young age is difficult. And I feel like he's going to figure that portion out, but he's got the skill and he's got the skating that a lot of bigger players don't have. So I actually am really excited about his game.
Give me the Alexei Joseph player profile. We know he's 6'4", 6'5", plays center and had a great year in the queue, but give me the profile there.
I watched him play at this one game, his exhibition game. He had 4 goals. I think it was in the 3rd period. And it was just, in a intra-squad scrimmage. But basically without him, that team was not going to win. He was so dominant. And watching him, I also realized in the blurb, it should say 9 points in that game, not 5. But either way, like, this is a guy that came to the QMJHL. I think he had a hat trick in his first game. Really powerful shot, great shooter. And I think there's a lot of arguments to be made that, yeah, the QMJHL is maybe not the best league. But when you come into league at 16 years old and you put up 30 goals, 60 points, like, that's still something very special. We just don't see that often. Loved him at the U17 World Challenge. He was playing against all his peers and he was the best player in that tournament. So this is a guy that can really power through guys. He's very strong. And again, watching him up close at the U17 camp last year, like, he looked like an absolute tank compared to some of these guys that were 5'8" that he was going up against. So granted, yeah, 5'8", and a lot of these guys haven't figured out how to use their size yet, but I think his ability to go out there and dominate physically really made it easy for him to get to major junior, and I think he's going to be great. I think there's just always a bit of hesitancy to take some of these massive forwards, kind of like with Privalov. Like, would you rather take the more mid-sized skilled defenseman who could shoot like laser beams all game long, or to get a guy like Alexei Joseph who probably isn't going to win a boatload of puck races, but he's got that size and he's got a good shot. So I think this is a really strong top 3. I think this is maybe a stronger top 3 now than last year's top 3 was. And I hate doing that comparison because it's always so easy to overhype the next age group because you're projecting hard 100%. But I feel like it's something where like there's actually a lot of bigger forwards, but also a lot of skilled guys kind of making up a really diverse top 10.
Okay, Stephen, if you talk to the average Canuck fan on the streets here of British Columbia, they will tell you the NHL will never allow them to win a lottery. So they're not picking first. They're not picking second. If by virtue of the fact they happen to be better under Manny Malhotra than, say, one or two teams in the NHL next year, they could find themselves picking, gasp, fourth or even fifth. Like
if they're just so hot that they're like 27th in the league.
And of course, other teams win lotteries, typically from big markets.
Look at his tinfoil hat out.
Your top five, because Mike's got the graphic prepared here, so we should show it. This Russian winger, I don't even want to try to pronounce the name, and Carter Meyer, the U.S. National Team Development Program.
For a Canucks fan, these are the honorable mentions.
Or the most likely.
Yes,
or the most likely.
Yes, slash most likely.
Yeah, just quickly on these two guys, Stephen.
Yeah, so Skortsov, I believe that's how you pronounce him. Like watching him play at the Russian junior level, outstanding numbers. 43 points, 52 games is actually quite difficult to achieve at a younger age. And watching him go out there and use his skating, like he's probably one of the better skaters I've seen from this draft class. So he's one where I feel like he's going to be a top six forward. I think he's almost. I don't want to say he's kind of like. Maybe he's the closest in this draft class to like a Stenberg from this past draft class in terms of like the skill level. I'm not saying he's going to go out there and put up like insane numbers against pro level players because we know KHL teams really struggle to use these young guys, but at his own age group, he's been very dominant for a while and I like him. And then Carter Meyer is very interesting. He actually got called up to the U18 U.S. National Team Development Program from the U17 team. He was very, very good at the U17 level, but also outstanding at the U18 level, one of the better players, which is difficult because everyone you are playing a lot of the same competition throughout the season, but your own teammates, like some of these guys are going to the draft this year, and that's something that's pretty difficult to overcome because those guys get a lot more preference, but very skilled, very smart. Big question about him is where's he going to play next year? Because I have him down there in TDP, but he did request release from the program to go to Quebec Ramparts. It's interesting because the Q has always been kind of seen as that third best.
Yeah.
And it's getting a lot of talent this year. Like Jamie Glantz is another one from the NTDP that'll be going there. And I think the big question here is, what's this NTDP program going to look like? There's this one like 2-day stretch in October where you've got Landon DuPont making his debut at the University of Michigan, and the next day is the NTDP playing Boston College, and these two rinks are like within 25 minutes, 30 minutes from each other. I plan to go to both, but what's this NTDP team going to look like? Because there's actually a lot of talent, but a lot of them are rumored to want out, and that's where it gets really complicated.
Is there a chance that they're going to the Q
with an American talent drain, incidentally?
Yeah, going north. Yeah,
who Canadian hockey league.
Is there a chance they're going there as a stat pad for a draft year?
Like, if anything, you would think some of these guys would try and fast track their way to college. If anything,
right?
It could, given how development's kind of changed. But I think with the Q, I think there's a lot of these like Eastern-based American players that are still looking at this. Like, it's still the CHL, it's still a solid league, and I think a lot of teams are looking here, or players are looking like, hey, like the Memorial Cup is probably, if you can get on a good Q team, it's probably you're just ready to get to the Memorial Cup.
Oh, that's a good point.
I think there's something where a lot of agents and a lot of scouts said, okay, you look at Keaton Verhoff, he could have probably put up 80 points in the WHL, and that would have maybe hid some of his flaws, and he would have probably guaranteed himself a high draft pick. I think for a lot of these players, though, it also showed, okay, maybe finding those flaws is actually way more important for our development, and that might actually be the better idea. So it'll be interesting. I think with the NTDP, it's playing a lot of the USHL teams. I know a lot of those. There's a lot of chatter about like how much longer the NTDP is going to exist. Should they move to the CHL? Like, what's going to happen? Is the USHL going to be the fourth CHL league, and is there going to be more inter-squad or interleague play? Like, I don't think anyone really knows what the future of this program is. It's kind of wild when you look at like 2023 when you had Will Smith and Ryan Leonard, Gabe Perreault, Trey Augustine, and Z Bouillon and Oliver Moore. Like, it was so many good talents, and to see what it's been the last couple of years, like, it's too bad that a guy like Carter Meyer is leaving, because this year's program should be very good, like at least better than the last two, and to see them kind of just collapse like this, it kind of sucks.
Well, I'm also reminded of the 2019 draft here in Vancouver. It was all about the NT. It was Jack Hughes. It was Turcotte. It was Zegras. It was Boldy and Knight and York and Caulfield. The cup runneth over. You've started your prospect pool series, post-draft prospect pool series. We see Anaheim is out there. If you're doing it alphabetically, I guess we have a long wait to the Vancouver Canucks, Stephen. But give me a little preview. If I said to you, Caleb Malhotra is number 1, Braden Coots is number 2, Adam Novotny's number 3.
Off the top of my head, like I haven't gotten that far yet, but I'd say probably like I'm a big Novotny fan. I think he's like almost underrated.
Are we just talking like U20s? Like is Jonathan Lecker-Mackey
well,
in the mix
I was going to
or?
say, then you've got to account for guys who have dipped toe in the NHL. So you tell me where you draw the line.
For me, I think it's 50 games in the NHL. Anything after that, I don't consider a prospect.
Yeah. All right, so Tom Villander has graduated from prospect status. Jonathan Lecker-Mackey
still in there.
Would still be in there. And lastly, Stephen, did I hear you say at some point this summer you will be seeing 2030 draft prospects?
This is the embryo hockey league.
Like this is the RJ Celebrini draft.
Oh, right.
There he is, my favorite 13-year-old. Look at
that.
Are you seeing RJ? Are you seeing RJ later this summer?
No, not seeing that. It's whatever like Hockey Canada brings to their young camp, City 17 camp. So nothing too crazy. But the nice thing about where I live, because I live outside of Toronto, Mississauga area, and kind of here, there's a lot of different showcase events that happen during the year. And like you watch, like I was at the OHL Cup. That's one of my favorite events. And then there's all the different tournaments. Some of them feel like, I won't say the word scam, but some of the tournaments like, this seems like a massive money grab.
Yes.
But
do you think?
Just a little bit. It's like, man, do you really need to have another showcase event in August? But I'll never forget during COVID when they had all these like secret camps or secret tournaments where, except for one of them wasn't secret, they were broadcasting it. But like when they all the restrictions, you can only play like 3-on-3 or 4-on-4 hockey in these small rinks, and the GTHL in particular wasn't. They didn't have any. They wouldn't play, so you would see teams that would just go under funnier names. Like it was like the Oakville team was like the Oakville Blues instead of the Oakville Rangers, or like they would just like change a little bit of the name. It's like it's the same group, but it's not the same players. And it's like, sure, you guys are skirting around the rules. It's like maybe sometimes it's just okay if the players are just not playing every 5 minutes.
That's right. That's right. So let me just ask the question because. In the case of the 2030 draft in RJ, some of it is, in fact, tongue-in-cheek with me, Stephen. Like 2027, I'm legitimately excited, Blake, but 2030 is a little ways out. So he's 13. When will you know? When will you prospect guys know whether he's like a presumptive first overall or top 5 pick? Like at what point do you start feeling safe projecting a kid into the top 5 of an NHL draft?
15, right? 15.
15's typically it, like, so because he turns 14 in August, and when you look at the numbers he's done, I know he's playing like not a super high level of minor hockey at this point, but he's playing like U15 hockey. He's 13, and it's like I don't even think it's AAA or whatever it is, but like this is a kid that you see the obvious skill, and the craziest things, it's the agents that typically find these players pretty early, and the agents will be like, yeah, look at my prospect, this guy's gonna be good for 2032, and it's like, that's actually one name. I don't remember which player it was. I'm not gonna say it either, but someone told me like a 202032 prospect that's like dominating. I'm like, I don't care. It's a little too stupid at this point.
His parents cut his food. Yes.
Yeah. I remember. I think he was 13 or 14 when Bedard's name first kind of came in. And actually, it's European players you hear about often first because they're playing like they signed like the systems really early. Because it was Aaron Kiviharju. The first time we heard about him, he was like 11. But I remember a Bedard story from Ken Campbell at the Hockey News, and it was talking about him like he was just finishing eating a hot dog. He spilled a bunch of ketchup and mustard on him. He does this interview. It's like it's very clear he's talking to a young kid, and that was kind of the context. It's like this is a guy that's already being heavily talked about so early, but you got to remember he's still a young kid, and there's so much that happened because so many of these wonder kids you hear about don't end up becoming anything, and. HF boards in particular is where these names really appear first. And it's like, what are you guys doing that you're scouting these guys like 6 years early?
HF board
teams
still
are-
exists?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, yeah. Okay,
Oh,
so
HF board is still
just so
insane
you
in
know,
terms of
Stephen.
prospects.
yeah, just so you know, Stephen, because I met little RJ with his uncle a couple of years ago in Kits, and the competition isn't great there in Northern California, which is why he comes up here to Vancouver to play against better competition. So, kid wants it.
And he had a great
And we
Transformers
want him.
collection. Yeah.
And we will be talking to you often over the next 4 years, my friend. Thank you for today.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys.
Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center. This next guest is brought to you by the Vancouver Canadians, who start a 6-game set against the Everett Aqua Sox tonight at Nat Bailey Stadium. The rare 2-week home stretch for the Seas. The Nats been absolutely packed here of late with all these fantastic giveaways celebrating 75 years of the stadium, the new Canadian Club patio section that opened last week. And we are absolutely delighted to be joined by a former Vancouver Canadian
And Everett too. It's the Adam Macko series.
He's a Vancouver resident as well, and we are proud to also call him Toronto Blue Jays relief pitcher, Mr. Adam Macko, joins us here on Harrison Price. Adam, great to have you on the show. Thanks so much for the time.
Yeah, how's it going, guys? Thanks so much for having me.
Well, we're delighted. We've been wanting to have you on for years because we've been following your progress, and particularly over the last couple of months as you got the call to the show and have pitched to a 3.63 ERA in 17 games. Congratulations. It's been quite a baseball journey. How's it feel to be a big leaguer?
It's unbelievable. Sometimes I still can't quite fathom that I'm a big leaguer, that I am here and hanging out with the guys and getting to contribute in winning baseball games at the big league level. It's quite a different feeling, not feeling like you wanting to go somewhere else other than where you're at right now. There's always throughout the minor leagues, you kind of climb up the ladder. And now you can just embrace fully where you're here. And so you're trying to do that in the minor leagues too, but it's a lot easier to embrace where you're at when you're in the big league. So it's amazing. I'm living the dream and grateful for everything.
We're going to rewind on your whole life in a second here, but this year, the World Baseball Classic too was your first, taste of, facing that level of competition too. And I was worried about you the first time you went out there on the mound, like, oh, is he ready? And you showed you were ready then too. Like, was that? I mean, you have belief in yourself throughout the minors, I'm sure. But was that the first time you're like, no, I'm ready now, that kind of ready?
Yeah. You have to have that mindset, especially when the lights turn on and it gets down to the wire. There's no room for second guessing in this game, and whether it's true confidence or false confidence, you got to go out there and just trust in yourself. And I've always had confidence in myself, and I knew what I could do, even if I wasn't doing it at that point. And I feel like those times in the minor leagues where things aren't necessarily going the way you want to teach you how to still have confidence in yourself. And I came to spring training as ready as I could be for the World Baseball Classic and to compete for a job at the big league level. So a little bit of preparation, a little bit of just self-confidence in general, and good things happen.
Adam, there have been thousands of Major League Baseball players, but I feel pretty secure in saying that your journey was unique. Through 3 countries, 2 of them not exactly traditional baseball powerhouses, with little assistance from YouTube. Tell us about how a guy goes from Slovakia to Ireland to Alberta to the big leagues.
Yeah, it was my parents' vision to go overseas before I was born. But once I was born, they settled down. They built a beautiful house in Slovakia, and we kind of just stayed there for the time being, obviously. And then when we heard of friends and some family that left Slovakia, my brother went to Ireland. He said it's beautiful there, and we kind of just wanted to go and visit, see what that's all about. And my parents loved it. We stayed there for a year and a half, and then we'd get our visa to Canada. And once we got to Canada, I really didn't expect to be at any competitive level of baseball. I had no idea what that would be like, because Slovakia and Ireland are, like you said, not very big powerhouses for baseball. And so once I got to Canada, I really hammered down on all those videos. It started in Ireland, but I hammered down on all those videos, trying to be as best as I can and kind of teach myself before I get to be selected into a team. And I thought I'd be playing in a house league or single A. And Kevin Inch saw me at a winter tournament in Alberta, or winter camp in Alberta. And he said, "Hey, how would you like to try out for AAA?" I was like, "What? Like, are you kidding me? Going to AAA right away?" It's not something that would even cross my mind. So I was all excited and stoked for that. And it's an incredible journey. I'm incredibly grateful for my parents. It's not easy moving a whole family across the ocean, and they did a lot for us, for me and my little sister and my other sister as well. And
so where was the discovery of baseball? What initially twigged you? Where did you see it? How did you did throw baseballs in Slovakia? How? Where? How?
There were some baseballs thrown. Yeah, there was some ball pit balls that were thrown as well. But it was basically the day one of grade one. There were tryouts for a bunch of different things for after school activities, and baseball was one of them. And it was just hitting a ball off a tee and hitting, it wasn't even a ball, it was like a ball pit ball. But just to kind of get us involved, and we're playing catch and all this stuff. And none of my friends really knew what we were doing, but we were all there together and we signed up. Yeah, and so we didn't really understand what baseball was, but my family, we all kind of learned together. And it was something that you couldn't have drawn up in a book.
For sure.
Baseball in Slovakia, baseball in Ireland. I was incredibly lucky to have the family and the support around me that I did growing up, and they really made sure that I had all the things I needed. And yeah, YouTube was a huge part for me in learning how to kind of catch up with the other kids that were overseas, and hopefully give myself the best shot.
So you get drafted by the Seattle Mariners, which is pretty cool because it's our neck of the woods, right? And then comes that day in 2022 where, oh, by the way, Adam, you've been traded to the Toronto Blue Jays and you'll be pitching in Vancouver. Take us back to that day when you become a member of the Jays organization.
Yeah, it was a couple of days after I got back from the fall league, and it was just my time, to relax after the season. I really didn't think about much about baseball at all, and I got a call at 7 a.m, and I was like, oh, that's I didn't have the number, and I was like, oh, that's spam. I'm not answering that. It's so early, whatever. And then the next text I got was from that same number. It was like, hey, Adam, it's Andy McKay. Please answer your phone. And I was like, oh no. So I called, and obviously he told me you've done an incredible job here, and but now we've traded you. And I was like, I really didn't want to leave the Mariners. It was a great organization to be a part of. And then I was like, okay, well, where am I going? He's like, oh, you're going to the Blue Jays. I was like, oh, really? Okay, pretty sweet. Not definitely, because when I got drafted, those were the two teams. I really obviously wanted to be drafted by the Blue Jays, and I wanted to play for the Mariners because they're super close. And so now I get to do both. And as soon as I came over there, and even before that, when I got on the phone, everybody was very welcoming. Everybody was very excited to have me, which felt great. And when I got there, people were it was a great family environment, so to speak. Everybody was very close. I felt very comfortable there right away. And now I've been with the Blue Jays longer than I've been with the Mariners, and they're an incredible organization to be a part of. And I couldn't have drawn it up any better to now be with the Blue Jays.
What are your memories of pitching at the Nat?
Yes, the Nat. Probably the best stadium I've played in the minor leagues. There's a lot, not a lot, but there are some newer stadiums that I was at. There's some that were bigger, but it's something special to be able to pitch in Vancouver, living in Vancouver. I got to live at home and play in Vancouver, and the Nat just gets electric. Those day games, those nooners at the Nat in the summer are something that you can't beat. There's people way past the capacity of what the stadium can hold.
No, they don't. Their fire code is adhered to. Trust us.
Oh, I apologize. Yes, exactly. They're probably just standing around. They have their
That's right.
That's right.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
They probably just like standing around the bullpen because they were right along the bullpen and they were enjoying their time. And honestly, the atmosphere with our team winning there too, and we get to win the championships as well in the finals. It was absolutely electric.
Now, we skipped over a little something there because he said getting to play in Vancouver.
Live at home.
Living in Vancouver. You're not only a Vancouver resident who had the good sense to marry a BC girl or is about to marry a BC girl. You've lived here for a long time. 7 years you've been living here in the off season. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Very small parts of the 7 years because the season is so long. And when I was younger, I was at camps a lot. But that's where I would go when I would go home. That's the place I call home since I got drafted. And, it's incredible. I feel spoiled getting to go back there. Vancouver area is amazing. And this past year, we didn't even get any snow, so I got to explore a lot and be outside a lot as well, which was amazing. But, yeah, 7 years seems crazy to me to say because time just flies by so fast. But it has been that, and we own an apartment in that area now too, and we absolutely love it.
We're with White Rock, British Columbia's Adam Macko here. Buddy, you got the call on May 18th. And on May 21st, you get your first major league win at Yankee Stadium. That must have been pretty special. I hope you got the ball. Tell me about the thoughts and emotions of winning your first game against a team like that in a place like that.
Yeah. I have the ball for sure. I have the lineup card too, which is pretty cool. And honestly, just it's unbelievable how great this journey has been for me, and going to Yankee Stadium, Detroit. I thought Comerica Park, I was blown away by, and I was like, "Well, this is so cool." I'm in the show, and then you get to Yankee Stadium, and just the atmosphere there is second to none, second to the Rogers Center, obviously. But on the road, it's one of the best places that the guys have told me. It's like the best place that you can debut, and I pitched there 3 out of 4 days, which was incredible. And yeah, hitting the milestones of debut, my first strikeout, my first win in Yankee Stadium is something that I will never forget. And honestly, one thing that stood out to me as well is the fans were pretty good to me. Everybody said, the fans are going to let me happen. But they didn't know who I was yet. They didn't really care. So
that's right.
They let me off easy.
Win a few more games, they'll treat you like Vladdy.
Matt was actually down watching you in Seattle as well. So you actually got to go back to Seattle and pitch there. And results aside, that must have been a little bit interesting. And San Francisco's a cool stadium as well. So at least you're getting the vibe checks out of the way here on the West Coast at the very least.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been looking forward to this trip. I love the West Coast, and that these are the teams that will probably get to play once or a couple times throughout the year. So not a lot of opportunities to go on the West Coast, and so getting to do that is pretty special for me. I get to knock a lot of those ballparks off my list as well,
yes,
which is nice.
Exactly.
Last question here, Adam, but the hotel's burning up his landline here. He's getting his suit tailored, looks spiffy on the plane. Who with the Jays has sort of taken you under the wing? Who's been the welcome wagon there in the Jays clubhouse?
Yeah, it's hard to name one guy. It's felt very welcoming from the get-go. I know a couple of the guys here. I mean, Fluharty let me know the ropes of what a lefty reliever should expect out of the bullpen, and so he's been very good to me in that sense. Out of the starters, there's really not one bad apple in the clubhouse. Everybody is super grounded, down to earth people who just want to help each other, who root for each other. And I mean, between Cease, Gauzy, Scherzer, I've talked to Bieber before as well when he was on his rehab starts in Buffalo, and so we kind of reconnected here now. So honestly, it's impossible to name one guy, but out of the similar role and kind of getting me more accustomed to the role that I'm in, it would be honestly Fluharty, who's been
All right.
who's been right there and telling me, is like, hey, you should expect to go in this situation or in that situation. These are your pockets. So kind of the ins and outs of what that takes to be a left-handed reliever on this team, it was him.
Got to stick together. As mentioned, the C's back at it tonight with a short season single A pennant giveaway. There's fireworks on Thursday, of course, a nooner on Friday. Kevin Pillar will be at the ballpark on Saturday, Blake, and of course a Pirate Hat giveaway on White Spot Family Fun Sunday. Get your tickets 604-872-5232 or CanadiansBaseball.com. Adam, honestly, one of the best conversations and interviews we've had in a while. Just absolutely love your story, buddy. Keep on keeping on. Appreciate the time here.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. It's been great.
So Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center. Game night turns into a game weekend here at the Wall. From puck drop to last call, everything you need right outside your door. Stay where the fans stay. wallcenter.com. Oblige me a moment or two here, Blake, because, when I go to Blue Jays in Seattle, and one of the great gatherings of Canadian sports people each and every year on the calendar, I meet a lot of people, and I got some shout-outs to do here, all right?
Oh, okay.
To Steve Stin's Ian Gallagher, brother Stewie.
Not of Oasis. Not the long
Their
lost
crew,
guy.
Paul, Cody, Jordan from Fort St. John, British Columbia, Garrett and Isaac, Graham from Kelowna, Tyler and Burnaby, the legend, Brandon and Lauren from Maple Ridge. Tried to warn you about the bag policy, Lauren. Brando should have been all over that. His bad. Sean and Jill out in center field on Saturday. We didn't have much to cheer about, so we had to amuse ourselves. And then Daniel, Caitlin, Kevin, Zach, and Jolene from beautiful Mission, British Columbia. We had a blast.
That's good.
We did see the one win on Friday, and then, Saturday they lost by 11 runs and they had one hit.
So you happen to have a party adjacent to a baseball game.
Right.
Yes.
That's really, I say it every year. It's one part baseball. It's one part party. It's one part fashion show. And let me just say that my vintage Vancouver Canadians gear still plays extremely well with the Blue Jays fans.
Hopefully
in Seattle.
you didn't encounter Ken Jennings, who ranted again about
Ken Jennings.
Yes.
The hate from Ken Jennings.
So bizarre.
I mean, and you occupy a chair, sir,
Built
that
by a
was
Canadian.
nailed
Yes.
down
Yeah.
by a Canadian icon.
Yeah.
And still you want to come with that hate.
Yeah. Honestly, GFY.
He doesn't think we're nice. Guess what? There's a reason why we're no longer nice. Since 2016, Ken. And sticking with baseball, congratulations to Abbotsford's Cade Smith. Named to the American League All-Star team yesterday of the Cleveland Guardians. Simply put, he has turned into one of the best relief pitchers in all of baseball. So this is extremely well-deserved for a guy who is part of the Guardians' formula for winning. Just get it to the ninth inning, and then Cade Smith locks it down. Good on him. The Whitecaps, remember them?
I do.
Back at it tomorrow versus Cavalry FC at historic Swangard, where they have not played since 2010. Blake, first time in 16 years out at Swangard. Of course, BC Place is still being occupied.
I'm glad they're practicing out there this week because training out there this week. Pardon me.
Yes.
The grass is a little bit longer out there.
Is it really?
They should
Yes.
be getting used to it. So that's good. And did you happen to see the video of Ryan Gauld yesterday?
He looked huge. I saw your comment.
Looks like he's been doing
Ryan
curls.
Gauld, which way the gym at? This is the first leg of a 2-match Canadian Championship quarterfinal, with the return leg going in Calgary on Monday. Of course, the Whitecaps are the 4-time reigning, defending Canadian champions. And alas, as Rob Williams notes, the party can't go on forever. TSN is shutting down its spectacular Vancouver FIFA World Cup studio and watch party at Jackpool Plaza after today. This is, of course, the final day of World Cup matches here in Vancouver at BC Place, with Colombia and Switzerland engaging in a round of 16 match, the final round of 16 match. The winner will play Argentina by the hairs on their chin in what was a I mean, if you didn't think it could get better after England-Mexico from the Azteca, Argentina and Egypt today with a hold my beer moments. You watched this match a little closer than I did, Blake, but goodness gracious, Leo Messi in absolute tears after the match. That's how emotional and draining it was, because the Argentines, the defending reigning World Cup champions, found themselves on the verge of elimination at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta.
Messi ties it in the 83rd minute after he had set up the get back into it goal, the opener.
They were down 2-0 twice. Egypt had a goal come off the board.
If you have a 2-0 lead on Argentina through 78 minutes, you should probably go about winning that match. And Egypt could not. 3 goals in 14 minutes to win it for Argentina.
And the incredible part is, Blake, look, the Wall Center has had a lot of footy fans here over the last month. But the number of yellow-clad Colombian fans that are in the hotel today and were watching this match upstairs at Cafe One and in the lobby, and needless to say, rooting for Egypt. I think they saw a clear path in the quarterfinals with Egypt.
They had just about enough with that Messi character, but they're going to get more of him if they can win today.
Yes. So good luck to Los Cafeteros, the Colombians today. Of course, Switzerland's got a win here at BC Place already over the home team. Staying with international sports, Canada basketball. You're next up, bro. They obliterate Jamaica by nearly 40 in Hamilton last night. They are undefeated 6-0 in FIBA World Cup qualifiers. Next up is Panama at the end of the month. And you should see the discourse around this team, Blake. Like, you've got basketball writers around the world saying this could easily be like Germany, you know, not the favorite, but a team that winds up winning the next FIBA World Cup. Our buddy Basketball Phil was telling me they've done something very smart there, Blake. They've taken Gordy Herbert, the new head coach. They've taken Shai Gilgeous-Alexander off the ball. They've said, Andrew Nembhard, you run point. Shai, you can just be the scorer. You don't need to worry about all the ball distribution duties. I'm sure OKC is pretty happy with that, too. Decrease his workload a little. Anyways, that's the next Canadian national team that is poised to take a significant step.
We were robbed
up in the world
of that deep run at the Olympics. Honestly, if they just got their shit together in that French match,
they were pretty good at the last FIBA World Cup, and of course they've had some results in international basketball of late, including at the youth level. But it's now time to do it in the big tournaments. And as we record this, Felix Auger-Aliassime versus Novak Djokovic today in the quarterfinals of Wimbledon, following the Canadians' emotional 4-set victory over Alejandro Davidovich Fokina. You saw them exchange words
we
after
talked about
the
it
match.
yesterday.
Yeah,
it was something else.
Goodness, Felix going nuclear on that.
But as we said yesterday, he made a good point, though. Like, you shouldn't be able to do that when the other guy's serving.
Right, yeah. Lose the game, Then on your serve, okay.
You can take that.
Now
Yeah.
I need the timeout. Djokovic won a first set tiebreak. Let's hope Felix gets back into it. Results of the daily poll question from yesterday. We asked you, given the new NHL economy, do you believe the Canucks will trade center Elias Pettersson this summer? Yes or no? People said
yes.
correct percentage.
56.
54. Pretty good, Blake. Dream says, no, I get the vibe that other teams want to validate the value of the player in the first quarter of the year. Good take. Brock, our buddy from Soyuz Radio, voting no. I have never believed that they would be able to pull off a deal this summer to move him out of town. Josh Zamboni guy, long-time audience member. I do believe that he will be gone before training camp. There's more smoke now. And then David says, I hope they do. Can they is another question.
Mm-hmm.
Any errors and omissions from yesterday's program or beyond?
Yesterday was so busy. If I made an error, I would have no idea.
It's always a perfect show when Jeff and Blake are together.
Doing two shows, got the soccer show, the 90th minute going
that's
as well. I did not look up or stop talking all morning yesterday. So I have no idea. I'll be honest. Error and omission I did not filter for an error or an omission.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time and connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Follow on social. That's X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky. We are live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time, weekdays. Programming note for this week, we have a big maintenance job to do on our, do people still say mainframe computer? The biggest, most important computer we have. We need to replace it. So we're taking Thursday and Friday. We'll have a show tomorrow, Wednesday, and then be back on Monday. And, of course, please do support the community sponsors. That's the reason we're able to do this that we tell you about. And keep it local.